environment ministers of G7 nations held talks on Sunday. Some big and new collective targets for solar power and offshore wind capacity have been set. They also agreed to speed up renewable energy development as well as move towards a quicker phase out of fossil fuels. Watch this report for more.
G7 ministers have set big new targets for solar power and offshore wind. Climate and energy ministers agreed on Sunday to speed up both developing clean energy and phasing out fossil fuels after 2 days of talks in the Japanese city of Sapporo. Renewable fuel sources and energy security have taken on a new urgency following the Ukraine war. But the climate and energy ministers stopped short of agreeing a 2030 deadline to phase out coal, which Canada and other members had pushed for. And they left the door open for continuing to invest in gas, saying it could help ease energy shortfalls. Japan's Trade and Industry Minister Yasutoshi Nishimura.
In the G7 meeting, we acknowledged that different countries around the world have various economic and energy situations, and the path to carbon neutrality by 2050 should be diverse. The important thing is to aim towards net zero, our common goal, and that was recognised.
The G7 communiqué pledged to collectively increase offshore wind capacity by 150 gigawatts by 2030 and solar capacity to more than 1 terawatt, which they called a drastic rise in clean power. They agreed to accelerate phasing out unabated fossil fuels. That is, the burning of fossil fuels without using technology to capture the resulting CO2 emissions. That would achieve net zero in energy systems by 2050 at the latest, the ministers said, promising concrete and timely steps towards scrapping coal. Canada said unabated coal-fired power should be phased out by 2030, and Ottawa, Britain and some other G7 members committed to that date, Canada's Minister of Natural Resources Jonathan Wilkinson told Reuters. Additional plastic pollution should be cut to zero by 2040, they said, bringing the target forward by a decade.
Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Matthew Elwald from Washington, D.C. He's an energy and oil expert. Welcome to the broadcast, Matthew. Now, energy ministers have agreed to speed up both developing clean energy and phasing out fossil fuels. We have heard similar talk in almost every climate conference. So is this greenwashing, or are you optimistic?
It is very easy to set goals. It is harder to meet the goals. A special problem for energy is that you can add capacity, you can add wind machines or solar farms, but that does not always allow you to displace the fossil fuels you would like to displace. The problem is we have only limited ability to store energy, and electricity is almost always produced exactly when it is consumed. So the recent experience in countries that have a lot of wind and solar is that you can have a lot of wind and solar, but it's not there when you need it. In fact, especially for wind, you can go days with no wind, and when you have that, you must burn fossil fuels. Some of those countries have enormous fossil fuel systems that now run fewer hours of the year, which is good, but they still have to be there to run when there is no wind or sun.